Mothball Mountain, as it's known in the US, and Mystic Mountain, as it's known in the rest of the world, has probably the most difficult location we have come across up to this point in Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic, that is, halfway through the Emerald group of parks. It's a small park with very little flat land, and it rains a lot here. So, here are my top tips on how to beat Mystic Mountain. As I said, it rains a lot here, so information kiosks will be essential, and it's a scenario where the so-called umbrella cheat, pushing up the price of umbrellas during the rain when guests will pay huge premiums for one, can be deployed to huge effect. Indoor rides will be essential too, as guests still ride these in the rain, so things like the Haunted House, 3D Cinema and Motion Simulator are must-builds when they become available from research. Speaking of which, we already have 7 roller coasters available in the build menu, but space in the park is precious. I'd recommend research focused on gentle and thrill rides, and roller coasters only until you have the looping coaster and its various launch modes available, which brings me to my next tip. Keep your coasters compact, but also try a powered launch or reverse inclined launch coaster to save space. The looping coaster offers these but will need to be researched. However, even with all research categories selected, you'd get it by the end of July in year 1 if research is receiving maximum funding. And you can propel this by having research look only at roller coasters initially. Build an underground roller coaster, at least one. It doesn't have to be entirely underground, as long as the majority of it is. Guests will then still ride it in the rain. The hill in the top right of the park peaks at plus 14 units inside land originally owned by the park, giving you a potential 20 units or 100 feet of height in which to build underground. Underground rides have 2 huge advantages in this scenario. Not only will guests ride them in the rain, but they can save precious space too. And speaking of saving space, gentle and thrill rides will be your friend in this scenario. Build every static ride you have available and that becomes available from research, and try and keep space compact by pushing them to the edge of your park and leaving as little empty space between them as possible. Avoid purchasing expensive extra land. It's very tempting, and you can buy extra land, which in total would roughly triple the size of your park, but it's charged at $90, pounds or euros per tile. By the latter parts of year 3, funds shouldn't be a huge issue, but if you are comfortable on funds at that stage, then you are probably looking good on guest count too. So my advice is to avoid extra land as much as possible. My How I Beat guide shows how I conquered the scenario without extending at all. But if you want to, I'd recommend extending into a small corner at the top right of the park, which would also give you a deeper underground section to work within. And that's Mystic Mountain, or Mothball Mountain if you're watching in the US. Good luck with this one, and let me know how you get on in the comments. Have you got any tips you'd add to this guide?